Today we're joined by the one and only Carter Stanley, obviously one of the greatest Jayhawks to ever put on a football uniform. You're our first football guest.
Les was an all-time recruiter.
He's 3 years removed now, and if you look at all the guys making plays for KU on Saturday, it's like, pretty much all Les Miles recruit. I mean, let's be real, as good as, the team's playing right now, I think, half the games against the Big 12 opponents, they are probably less talented. But you couldn't tell, on pretty much any given Saturday with how they create opportunities. They move out the quarterback a lot. They do a lot of creative stuff to maybe make up for, any shortcoming in talent.
Coach Suff, when he walked in the locker room, he's like, what is going on? We're playing in Flowers tonight? It's a top soft. 20 matchup. We're playing Flower jerseys. Yeah.
And soft.
Thank God we won, though. Thank God. Imagine if we would have lost in that. Kansas would have worn nothing besides white and blue jerseys for the rest of all time.
You guys probably would have came out in practice jerseys the next week.
Dad used to tell me all the time. Son, don't worry about the mules, just load the wagon.
Today's episode is brought to you by Factor Meals. Super excited to be partnered with Factor because I use them all the time. I love Factor. It's a quick, easy, fresh, healthy, chef-prepared meal. Allows me to be at the top of my game for longer. It's healthy. It's hard to find fast food that's good for you. Factor's the way to go. Do you use them a lot?
I use them a lot. And when he says fast food, this is the fastest food you can get. You don't have to drive anywhere and go to a drive-thru. I mean, you pull it out of your fridge and you poke a couple holes in the film, put it in the microwave 2 minutes, and it's ready. They're just fast, easy. Get me going in breakfast. Get me going at lunch when I'm having a hard day at work or a fast day at work. They're easy, they're healthy, and they taste really, really good.
Head to factormeals.com/rockchalk50 and use code rockchalk50 at checkout for 50% off your meal. That's right. Head to factormeals.com/rockchalk50 and use code rockchalk50 for 50% off your order. Head there now. I love them. Chris loves them. Support the pod. Support Factors. We love y'all.
Mitch and Chris, I appreciate it. Before we get back to Rock Chalk Unplugged, those guys are doing a great job, by the way. I got to tell you about the best way to make money on sports. It's on Prize Picks. I played football, coached it. Now I'm a football analyst. And I'm telling you, during football season, there's no better place to be than on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy, not sports betting. So on fantasy, on Prize Picks, you pick players, not teams. Each player has a set total stat projection for a game. You pair a couple of those together, pick higher or lower for the stat projection. And then when it hits, you make tons of money. So if you know ball, no players, you can rake in the dough with Prize Picks. The best part is, for the Rock Chalk Unplugged listeners, we have a special promo code that gets you a 100% deposit match up to $100 on Prize Picks. It's with code ROCKCHALK or by going to prizepicks.com/rockchalk. That's prizepicks.com/rockchalk to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Who knows what you can turn that $100 into? I'm thinking you guys can rake in the dough on some Monday night football, college football Saturday, tons of things to choose from other than just football too. They got basketball. They got tons of sports on there. You guys will love Prize Picks. It is the best way to fire on sports, and I've tried all of them in the world. Go to prizepicks.com/rockchalk to get your 100% deposit match up to $100. And guys, supporting Prize Picks, the sponsor of this podcast, helps support Mitch and Chris and the great work that they do and the great work that we're doing across the board at Mercury with all the great shows. So your support means a ton, allows us to put this podcast on. prizepicks.com/rockchalk.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Rock Chalk Unplugged. I'm Chris Teahan, along with my co-host, Mitch Lightfoot. We have a special guest on today. Mitch, why don't you introduce him?
Today we're joined by the one and only Carter Stanley, obviously one of the greatest Jayhawks to ever put on a football uniform. You're our first football guest as a duo with Chris and I. We're super excited to have you on. Your time at Kansas, you had some great games, and you were the shining bright spot on a bunch of those teams, and we're excited to have you on.
Definitely looking forward to this.
Mitch, I'll let you hit the first question, Mitch. What's on your mind? What you got to ask Carter?
Carter, I wanted to hit you up first. I wanted to ask you, what have you been up to since you've been in Kansas? What are you doing now? Give the people kind of an update on Carter Stanley. What's life been like for you?
Lived in Kansas City for like 9 months after being done with KU. was training to get a shot in the NFL. It was during COVID, kind of a tough time to go for it with some numbers being, cut short for guys in that draft class. But moved down to Tampa, Florida initially, then moved over to St. Pete, like right in the Tampa Bay area, and just doing working with UBS right now, doing private wealth management. Really liking it. Definitely miss Kansas and in the Lawrence area from time to time, with the seasons and, just being up there. But no, just really, really liking it down in St. Pete, and all's going well right now.
Talk to us a little bit about the getting ready for the NFL side of things. Like, that was a struggle during COVID, and I can't imagine having to prepare myself to play in the NFL. Like, what was that like, and what ultimately led to your decision to go into the professional business world?
My last season was fall of 2019, and quickly decided that I was going to go for it. I was never going to be like a high draft pick guy, but I was being told that late like 7th round or strong free agent consideration just to sign like with the team after the draft, but. I was actually fortunate enough to get my pro day off. I think it was like March 5th of 2020, which like 90% of the guys in my draft class didn't. And so I don't know, it was good to get in front of those scouts, but at the same time, doing like pro days on Zoom and, they're reporting 4.3 40-yard dashes and no one's there to really like vouch for it. So, it could go either way, but no, I mean, the draft comes along and they already beforehand, they were going to do like a rookie mini camp, which they've had every other year. And that's just like an opportunity for guys like of my caliber to get in. It's like 30 rookies they bring in per team and, get in and, prove that you can make a roster spot. And, not having that definitely hurt like a lot of guys like in my situation, but stuck it out for that full fall of 2020, just because I didn't know how like COVID was going to play out, whether, back room gets COVID, I didn't know if they'd be bringing in new guys or anything like that. And none of that really happened. And, when they did, they would just go with like some veterans that were free agents, like guys that have been in the league for, say 5 to 8 years. But, about a year of just doing nothing but lifting weights, throwing a football and running sprints. I was about done with it and, started interviewing for some jobs down in Florida and was pretty content with the decision at that point to move on.
I think that's kind of exact. I didn't try for the NBA by any means or anything, but by the time that it was all said and done, like when I hung up the shoes, it was a good decision. It was like I was fully done with being an athlete, really. I don't know if that's the same exact feeling you had, but I know that feeling.
It was.
Yeah, and so going into your last year, you had a great year. You had a couple of great showings. Obviously, we were not the team that we are now, not super disciplined, or we had a lot of questions up front. But when we figured out the protection, you went out there and balled. So bring us through that last year, because that was kind of your story throughout your career. Was like, hey, you showed your glimpses, and they were great glimpses, great games. You were an ultra competitive dude. Like you were, for me, like the great white hope for Kansas football. Like you gave us those glimpses, like, okay, we can go win some football games. Kind of bring us through your mentality your 5th year after having all those struggles with a lot of things that obviously couldn't solely be on you. But going into your 5th year, what was your mindset?
First 4 years I was under Coach Beaty, and I liked Beaty, and I liked the offense that we ran. It just wasn't maybe the best for our team, but Miles was super excited about that. But I was still by no means. Going into that 5th year, they brought in Thomas McVitie, who's I think like the #1 quarterback in JUCO. I was still kind of slated to be like a backup guy or, competing for a job, but definitely had to prove myself and, thought about grad transferring for sure, but back then it was different. Like there was no transfer portal. So there was no way of like getting just from like see where you could land unless you just like fully committed and saying like I'm transferring, you know. So it was kind of tricky. I'm super glad I stuck it out, but yeah, it was a fun year. You know, it was up and down. We had some good games. Obviously, 3-9 record isn't, you know, going up in the Ring of Honor, but
At that time, it was though.
but no, it was fun. You know, I think we had some talented guys for sure, and looking back on it and Big 12, like understanding that, you know, I think our roster as far as talent wise, I think we could have and should have been, you know, 6-6 caliber team, you know, a team that made it to a bowl game, but, you know, tough conference, and, you know, we some of those games, but no, I have zero regrets about staying at KU. My 5th year, loved it, you know, loved the campus, loved the people.
Carter, like you talked about, you had the opportunity, you could have gone, jumped into the portal, but you chose to stay at Kansas. Why did you choose to stay between those two different coaching staffs? Why did you stay as a Jayhawk?
Yeah, you know, part of it was just like felt like you know, I kind of owed it to Kansas because I really didn't have a lot of offers coming out of high school, and you know, Kansas took a chance on me when no other Power 5 school did. And I, you know, I love Kansas, love the campus, love the people, like loved everything about it. So, you know, it would have been super hard to leave, but I mean, I was certainly considering it. And, you know, like I mentioned earlier, they brought in Thomas McVitie, and I was going to be competing with him. And, you know, I felt good about the competition. I felt good about where my game was at. And, you know, I liked what the staff was doing at the time when we were in spring ball, and, you know, I just like doing some different things because the previous 4 years, it was all like air raid offense, you know, nothing but shotgun snaps. And then for the first time really in my life, I'm taking like under center snaps, doing like some play action schemes and stuff like that. So, you know, I was really just kind of intrigued with the offensive system and scheme that we had in place, and, you know, just felt good about how the competition was going to maybe play out.
So you played for obviously 2 different head coaches. You mentioned it before, Beaty. I think they kind of personality-wise were the same. Obviously not the same, but like they were players' coaches. Would I be right saying that?
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of played for the same mentality as a coaching staff. But Les was an all-time recruiter, but at the end of his time at Kansas, he probably wasn't the best game-playing guy. Was that something that you kind of thought throughout the time? Like, hey, he got talent. Like, you could arguably say he got probably better talent than Lightfoot has on the team right now. But was it something lacking in the game plan? Like, what kind of was it like in Les's tenure when you were there, that 1 year?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point, and yeah, there's no doubt about it. Les can definitely recruit. Like, you know, he's what, 3 years removed now, and if you look at all the guys making plays for KU on Saturday, it's like, you know, pretty much all Les Miles recruit. So, yeah, there's no denying that. But scheme wise, honestly, it was. I feel like he was pretty hands off, except for kind of like some third and fourth down, like short situations where he would implement just kind of like his old school power run offense, which honestly I loved. Like, it wasn't necessarily the most successful all the time, but no, it was pretty cool to run some of that stuff. And yeah, I'd say all in all, schematically, he wasn't nearly as hands on as Beaty was. So. You know, that was definitely a difference between those two. But no, I loved playing for both coaches. I'd say specifically Les, because he was a funny guy, man. Like Mad Hatter, his nickname. That's who he is. Like, you know, what you see is what you get with him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I wanted to ask you something along the lines of going from Beaty to Les. What was the major difference between the two, and what was each one of them's strengths?
See, I mean, as far as differences, and I remember thinking this in the moment, and even now to this day, I still kind of think it, but it didn't feel too different. Like we honestly ran everything kind of the same way. There wasn't too many like glaring differences in how we operated on a daily basis or in the off season. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of almost weird because personality wise, they're kind of completely different. And I guess you could say like age and era that, they've been completely different, but kind of honestly the same program, I guess.
And I feel like that's the feeling from the outside as well. Like when they switched coaches, when I came and watched Juris' first couple games or less, like it didn't feel like there wasn't a huge different look. Like we obviously were playing more competitive, and the games that we lost, like we were scoring points. Our offense looked good. Like it was entertaining to watch. I feel like a lot of time under Beaty, it wasn't like that. But like the way it moved, and I think that you can tell the difference. And I'll let you get into it on this because you know more. But like you watched Leipold's team when he got here. It was like a complete 360 of the way that we all carried ourselves, the discipline, like the way you saw like the people, like the players on campus. Like I feel like it was a complete culture shock. I don't know how much you talk to the guys still, but that would be pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, just strictly off like the eye test alone, seeing those guys on Saturday, they seem like they attack, so much more, and it's so much more like high powered. And yeah, the crazy thing is looking back on it, I feel somewhat confident in saying like this team this year and last year, like I'd say they're very similar in talent to what we had in 2018 and 2019, my last 2 years out there. But, I think, to be honest with you, the current staff, their scheme, like it's just so much more friendly to playing in matchups to where you're still maybe at a disadvantage talent wise. Cause I mean, let's be real, as good as, the team's playing right now, I think, half the games against the Big 12 opponents, they are probably less talented, but you couldn't tell, on pretty much any given Saturday with how they create opportunities. They move out the quarterback a lot. They do a lot of creative stuff to maybe make up for, any shortcoming in talent.
And I think that it's like, as much as it is creative, the Beaty and less offenses, Beaty more, it was like, let our guys out athlete their guys. And we don't have those kind of guys. So in the situations when we're getting out athleted, there's not much we could do. And yeah, you said we still have the same amount of talent, but this feels like a full fist coming at you. Like everybody is on the same page. Everybody's taking care of their individual thing. It's not like let's throw the ball out to Lawrence Arnold and just let him try to go one-on-one in the backfield.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah, I'd say because Beaty, before he was at KU, he came from Texas A&M where he was like co-offensive coordinator with like Cliff Kingsbury and, they had Johnny Manziel throwing to Mike Evans and like, Coach, we don't got that. It was like, I love some of this stuff and, love the guys we had, but, also that offensive line at A&M, they had like 3 first-round draft picks. So, they could drop back in a shotgun and just air it out, let guys go deep. And, we couldn't necessarily do that. And kind of same thing with Les, with some of the stuff he had. It was like, all right, he's coming from LSU where he had Leonard Fournette, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. And it's like, yeah, we're not getting the same push up front or, we're not able to just sit back there behind the line for 8 seconds and chuck bombs. So yeah, I think that's something that this staff does really well. They kind of play perfectly for the roster that they have. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of talented guys on our current roster, but I think they just do a lot of creative things to promote some yardage.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the current subject right now with Jalon Daniels being out. Talk about the toll it takes on your body playing the Big 12, like the amount of hits you're taking. Like that is a very physical and big league. Like what is that like?
Yeah, I mean, the whole Jalon situation, it stinks because, I'm going to be honest. I think, it's kind of weird how they haven't like specified like what kind of back injury it is. But, saying from experience, back injuries for a quarterback, they're not fun. Like you're just nowhere near the player that you are when you're fully healthy, when you have a back injury. Because I don't know, so much of like the throwing motion, people think it's just like all arm, like shoulder strength and arm strength, but like so much of it is like rotating on the throw. And, that's how you generate like velocity and speed on the ball. But yeah, I think week to week, it's tough. Like most of the time, you obviously got to take care of yourself and protect yourself. But whether it's like a legitimate injury or just banged up from the week before, it definitely adds up as the season goes on. And, just you guys know, like you got to take care of the rehab stuff weekly and do everything you can to make yourself feel great for that game on Saturday. But it definitely adds up, as the season goes on.
I saw on Twitter something I think that you could speak to is like people were like, "Oh, why isn't he back? Like he must not be trying. He must not care that much." Like, no, that's not the case. Like when it comes to injuries like that, like you could put him out there and it just won't be the Jalon Daniels you remember. Like it won't be as effective, and it would end up hurting the team as well as potentially hurting him even more. Like talk about playing through an injury, like playing on an injury. Like that's what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And, especially with, we're fortunate enough to have a good backup, Jason Bean. I don't think he had his best game last week. I think he'd be maybe the first one to say that as well, but he still had some great plays, and he's shown us in the past that he's more than a capable backup QB and very talented. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's just kind of a lose-lose for Jalon to go out there if he's battling an injury, especially something that's like recurring, like a back injury. He goes out there and enforces it versus the number 3 defense or number 3 team in the country last week. Like, yeah, it could end up just being worse for him personally and worse for the team because he's not at his best.
And I think that Jason Bean, like everyone talked about his performance on Saturday, but he had 30 minutes to prepare for a top 25 matchup in Austin, Texas, ABC 2:30. If we have a full week, Jason Bean, in my eyes, is the best backup in the nation. Like being able just to plug and play. You give him a week, I'm fully confident in his ability this week against USC or UCF. Like, and I think that everyone shares that. And it was unfair to him to kind of throw him in there and then expect him to go do what Jalon Daniels does because of the preparation that goes into taking the snaps, taking the mental reps. Like, I'm sure there was games when you guys were doing the 2 quarterback committee, kind of like you guys were switching in. You're setting 2 guys up to fail, really.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's 100% accurate. It just, you think about it. They go all last week planning for Texas, obviously thinking Jalon's going to play. 30 minutes before the game that gets, pulled. And, at that point, there's no changes you make to your game plan. Like it's already set in stone. It's implemented. At that point, it's just kind of, making in-game adjustments. And, like Daniels he literally could have been hurt on like the first play, and it would have been like the same scenario as knowing 30 minutes before you're going to play. Like, there's nothing they really could have done to adjust the game plan. And at that point, it's just in-game adjustments. And, it's tough. But with this week, full week of preparation, he knows he's the guy. No questions about that. He's getting all the first-team reps. Like, I think we'll see a much more productive Jason Bean this weekend. And, I think this offensive staff will dial up some plays that are more tailored to his game.
Carter, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your time against Texas. You obviously had the massive win against the Longhorns. Like, give us a little bit of a backstory into that game and how much that meant to you to win.
Mitch and Chris, I appreciate it. Before we get back to Rock Chalk Unplugged, those guys are doing a great job, by the way. I got to tell you about the best way to make money on sports. It's on Prize Picks. I played football, coached it. Now I'm a football analyst. And I'm telling you, during football season, there's no better place to be than on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy, not sports betting. So on fantasy, on Prize Picks, you pick players, not teams. Each player has a set total stat projection for a game. You pair a couple of those together, pick higher or lower for the stat projection. And then when it hits, you make tons of money. So if you know ball, no players, you can rake in the dough with Prize Picks. The best part is, For the Rock Chalk Unplugged listeners, we have a special promo code that gets you a 100% deposit match up to $100 on Prize Picks. It's with code ROCKCHALK or by going to prizepicks.com/rockchalk. That's prizepicks.com/rockchalk to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Who knows what you can turn that $100 into? I'm thinking you guys can rake in the dough on some Monday Night Football, college football Saturday, tons of things to choose from other than just football too. They got basketball. They got tons of sports on there. You guys will love Prize Picks. It is the best way to fire on sports, and I've tried all of them in the world. Go to prizepicks.com/rockchalk to get your 100% deposit match up to $100. And guys, supporting Prize Picks, the sponsor of this podcast, helps support Mitch and Chris and the great work that they do and the great work that we're doing across the board at Mercury with all the great shows. So your support means a ton, allows us to put this podcast on. prizepicks.com/rockchalk.
Carter, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your time against Texas. You obviously had the massive win against the Longhorns. Give us a little bit of a backstory into that game and how much that meant to you to win.
Yeah, no, that was awesome, man. Yes, it was our second to last game of the year in 2016, and it was actually senior night for us. And that was such a great group of seniors that we had. Locker room guys. Definitely some talented players as well. So one thing that was really cool, I think it was walkthrough the day before. Coach Beaty, he's from Texas, and we're finishing up the walkthrough, and he just said all right, let me see a show of hands of you guys that are from Texas. And literally a third of our roster, probably 40 guys, raised their hand. And he's like, all right, let me see a show of hands of people that were offered by Texas. And I think it was maybe one guy on our team that had an offer from Texas coming out of high school. And he was just that was, me being a Florida guy, outsider, that was pretty sick to see. And that definitely, got those guys going and fired up. And it was crazy because the game starts, they get the ball literally first play of the game, they throw a 5-yard hitch that goes 75 yards to the house. I'm like, well, that's not how you want to start. But no, we bounced back great, and literally just an ultimate team win. I think our defense forced 5 or 6 turnovers. Offense wasn't a good day until last 2 drives of the fourth quarter. We got some points to tie it up in regulation, and just seeing that field goal go through in overtime to win, and it was an awesome moment.
From my time after the game, it was a great time. What did you do after the game? How much fun did you have?
You can't ask him that, dog.
Oh God, it's after the fact,
dude. Honestly, it was nuts. I felt like the whole team was kind of just shocked, honestly. Cloud nine. We had a pretty big pregame with a number of the guys on the team, and definitely celebrating that one, and then headed on down to 14th and Ohio Street that night and had a good one.
had to pour one out of the hog. But you were texting right? You were texting the kryptonite. I mean, your last year, you go down to Austin, right? This is your last year, and we're up 17-14. I just found this out today. That was the first lead we had at Texas since 1997. So you beat them at home. I think that was the first time forever we had beaten Texas. Go down there, get a lead, and that game was I'm not a morals victory guy. I am the Shedeur Sanders. They ask him, what's the moral victory? He's like, I don't even know what that means. But that game was so much fun to watch that it was that's what I loved about your last year, is that you gave us all hope on hey, this program is headed the right direction. Talk about, obviously you lost, you guys didn't come out with the outcome you wanted for that game, but talk about your last game in Austin, Texas, putting on a fantastic game.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a fun one, and I'm with you on the no moral victories, but looking back on it, that was truthfully game. Put it this way, it was the most fun I've ever had in a loss, by far. Stinks that we didn't win, but it was actually the only game my high school buddies got to come and see me play, because I had a friend that was living in Austin, so. they put the visiting team, like their family members, literally like back left corner of the stadium, back up against like the last row. And it was funny, like we'd score and I'd hear like a group of 50 up there just going nuts. Like, but no, it was awesome. It was like perfect night. Had a lot of fun. Shoot, I think 2 weeks prior, we fired our offensive coordinator, got like a whole new offensive coordinator, and we had a bye week to like prep for it. So we kind of had like 2 weeks to implement this whole new offense, kind of based off like RPOs and spreading it out a little bit more than what we were doing earlier. And, we didn't know what to expect, and we kind of started off slow, but caught fire. And, unfortunately they go down on the last drive to win it. But no, definitely a fun night.
My favorite picture is Carter Stanley. It's like that. Nothing gets me more hyped than every year when you post that. It's legitimately so much hype.
Yeah, no, it was that was definitely emotionally fueled. There was a lot of people in the front row right behind our bench the whole game, just like, y'all are going to get beat by 40, this and that. And, we go down with a minute left, go for 2 to take the lead, and I just had to rip it. So.
They get mad about you doing it, but they give you no choice. Like when you're there, they sit there, they're holding it up, they're talking all that shit, and every time, like, they're expecting you not to go like this. It's like you're literally just putting it on a tee for me. As soon as I make my first big play or anything goes on,
right?
Everybody just throws it down. Can't be mad about that.
No, 100%. And like, dude, if you think about Oklahoma, like their school's hand signal, like Sooner, it's horns down. Like, they don't even have their own thing. It's just anti-Texas. So yeah, and you hit it on the head. It's they put it out there because everything they do is just this. So you're in a competition with them. It's competitive, and once you get a good play or a good moment, it just comes out, I guess.
What's your opinion on that being made into a penalty? If you throw up the horns down now, it's a penalty. It's a what is it, Chris? It's an
unsportsman. It's 15.
It's an unsportsman.
2 of them, you get kicked out of the game, which that's the most ridiculous part.
Yeah, so I wonder if you do double, I wonder if that would count as 2 of them. But
get them out of here, throw them out, baby. Carter, I wanted to ask you, what's the craziest environment you played in college? Whether that be Texas, K-State, what's the craziest environment you played in?
Yeah, I'd say probably a tie between Texas and West Virginia. And it's funny because West Virginia's capacity is like maybe a little bit more than half of Texas. I think Texas is like 100,000 or maybe a little bit over 100,000. West Virginia, it's really not that much bigger than like Kansas's stadium, but God, I mean, those fans are so rowdy. Like you pull into the stadium and you're seeing burning couches and 5-year-old kids like flicking off the bus. Like it, like that place was electric. And I'd say probably a tie between those two. But also Oklahoma State, like same deal, only like 50,000 capacity, but I've never played on a field where the stadium or the stands is like so close to the field. And so it just feels like they're right on top of you. So I guess I'd throw that in there as well.
Which is crazy, the correlation between football and basketball. Like West Virginia is the same thing in basketball. Like it's not the biggest arena you play in. There's not always the most people there. But somehow, if there's 20 people in that building, it's going to be deafening. And then Oklahoma State, too, like their basketball court, like the only true courtside seats. And then their second row comes over. So, like, it is like, you really feel like you're in a box. Like, it's like claustrophobic. And then it gets loud. And we never played one sold out at Oklahoma State, Mitch. And that was maybe one of the loudest stadiums in the Big 12.
It's a place you hate to play, too.
Wait, what?
I said it's a place you hate to play, too, because, like, it's just everything's on top of you, like.
Right.
In my experience, like in my time at KU, like they weren't very good that often. So like it was always a trap game. Like you're going down there, it's a trap. Like it's going to be a loud environment for a game that you aren't super jacked up for. Like it was always a trap.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk.
I was gonna ask you, since we were speaking about stadiums and whatnot. What is your thoughts on the new stadium renovations that KU's getting? How much is that going to mean to our football program and in our university in general?
Yeah, no, I think it's huge. Obviously, so much going into it financially, emotionally. Like, there's a lot that goes into something like that, and I think it's good. I'm kind of forgetting about what other things are involved other than the stadium. I know it's going to be like a big district, but I think all in all, it'll just be great for the university because, man, I mean, we were due for a new stadium to say the least. It's dated, but obviously, the team winning now, promoting some energy and excitement around the program. Like, I think it's well deserving, and I'm super fired up to see when it's all said and done.
How much does a new stadium mean for recruiting?
I think it's huge because, like, honestly, if you look at KU's current state, outside of the stadium, we have great facilities. Like, and they just updated the locker room again. So yeah, everything outside of the stadium currently is phenomenal. Obviously, the coaches, they're putting some wins together now to back that up, and I think that's kind of like the last piece to really have KU as like a true competitor, in the football phase.
And they've been, obviously we're winning. There's a lot of buzz around the program, but they have been doing a lot of little fun things that I feel like is really good for recruiting. The one that's been really big this year was the black jerseys. I want to know your opinion on them because I'm not a black on black guy. Like I hate black jerseys, maybe because I'm so white. I always hated like wearing stuff like that. I made it look like a ghost. But like, what was your opinion on those black jerseys? I thought they were sick.
I loved them. The funniest thing about it, and I was talking with some former teammates about this too, is, we had guys on our team that were just begging the coaches, like, come on, like, we got to get black jerseys. We got to do it. Cause I guess they had like a black jersey back in like 2012 or something, but they told us, they were like, yeah, it's not a school color. We're red, crimson, blue, a little bit of yellow and white. Like, it's not a school color. We can't do it. Sure enough, you start winning some games and it gets allowable, but I loved it. And I thought I saw that, I guess they have like 41 potential like uniform combinations right now, which is pretty cool. I mean, end of the day, you still got to go out there and just play well. That's the only thing that matters. But no, it definitely helps.
I like it though.
Yeah, no, I loved it. And I love the circus font that they had. Did you guys notice that? Like,
yeah,
I like the numbering and the letters. Like, I wish that would kind of be our primary, but obviously with blue.
Yeah, and I think they'll do a combo where like they'll do an all white with a black helmet or something like that. I think they'll find a way. If we start winning games and there's a big time game coming to Lawrence,
for sure,
we'll sprinkle something in there.
Mm-hmm. We need one for basketball.
There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell.
We wore flower jerseys, and I think that is about the cap for Coach Self. No, he'll never approve black jerseys. We will have them.
Didn't he walk in the locker room and was like, "What the hell are these?"
He was trying to get them changed. He was like, "We're not wearing these tonight. We're not wearing these tonight." But we had a bunch of ads and marketing and stuff already put out. I'm pretty sure this is the story, and they were like, "We can't not now." We promoted it, like everything's about it. It's like I think it was Black History Month is what it was. And so, like, they had no choice. But Coach Self, when he walked in the locker room, he's like, what is going on? We're playing in flowers tonight? It's a top 20 matchup. We're playing flower jerseys. Yeah.
And soft.
Thank God we won, though. Thank God. Imagine if we would have lost in that. Kansas would have worn nothing besides white and blue jerseys for the rest of all time.
You guys probably would have came out in practice jerseys the next week.
We would have. We didn't wear red jerseys at home for I think it was like 4 or 5 years because we wore them at home and lost. And so Coach Self was like, I think we've lost like 3 out of the last 9 games we've worn red jerseys, which 3 out of 9 is like no big deal at all. But he's like, that's our lowest winning percentage. Like, it has to be the jerseys. We are not wearing
Which is also a completely made up stat because he was notorious for like just pulling stats out that everyone's like,
no one's
who the hell? Like,
yeah.
No one's.
I feel like that's like a coach thing in general. Like you have coaches that make up random ass stats just to validate their points sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong, it might be a good point, but like, there's no need to tell me a stat about it that I'm not going to fact check.
So you guys had a couple big wins your last year, Kansas, but there may not have been a bigger one than the homecoming game, Texas Tech in Lawrence. What was that feeling like? I mean, it was the first time we got a Big 12 win in a very long time, or not in a very long. We beat Texas obviously in 2016, but like it's a monumental win on homecoming night game. Everything was crazy. How was that feeling?
Yeah, that was definitely a fun one. You know, it was coming off of the week prior. We were at Texas. Had like a heartbreaking loss on a last-second field goal, and this was going into week 2 under Brent Dearman as our offensive coordinator, and obviously coming off of a good offensive performance, we were fired up to get back out there and try to stack two good ones together. And it's funny, all week we were, it's homecoming game. We got this new offense. We're trying to show off a little bit. And, we all week we're working on this like double reverse lateral back to me. And then I throw like a deep post route and we're going to run it on the first play of the game. I'm not kidding. I don't think it worked one time in practice all week against the scout team. And coach was like, man, like, what do you think? You still want to run it? I'm like, yeah, let's run it. Let's go deep first play. And sure enough, like double reverse, almost gets hit for a fumble. I kind of barely get it. See a single high safety, which was not the read to throw a post into. And I'm just like I'm about to get sacked. Like, fuck it. Like, just chuck it. And it was brutal. Of course, gets picked off. We're down 17-0 to start that game. It's like, man, like, was not looking good. And, we started off just kind of catching some momentum, getting some good plays. And, I think it was 34-34 in the fourth quarter. We're going down to like kick a field goal to win it. And if you guys remember, we got the first attempt blocked and Texas Tech recovers it. They're trying to like return it for a touchdown because like time's running out. They go to lateral it. We actually had one of our offensive linemen like pull the arm to kind of throw the lateral off. Luckily we bounced like on it with 2 seconds left, kicked the field goal to win it. And yeah, that was a fun one for sure.
I forgot the exact way that ended. I couldn't remember if we blocked the kick and it ended on that. But yeah, I remember that. And it was just one of those games where like you're sitting there scratching your head at the end of it, just being like, what? Like, what happened? We were down 17-0. Like the final play of that game, it was just like a perfect storm. It was like a movie. It was just straight up entertainment that whole second half.
Yeah, no, it was kind of terrible, but yeah, we get off the field after like that or before that first field goal attempt. And I'm kind of on the sideline telling the offense, I'm like, all right, get ready for overtime. Cause at the time we were kind of having struggles with special teams, especially the week before versus Texas. And sure enough, it gets blocked. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And just like praying that he didn't return it for a touchdown because that would have been just like a nightmare. But luckily we were able to get back on it and close it out with the second try.
Carter, at your time in KU, what was the craziest conditioning you ever had to do?
Yeah. Well, there's a few I could definitely say, but I'd say the worst was probably 2017, like week before the season started. We had some guys that went out at Shark Night, got into some trouble. I may or may not have been included in that, but we got punished, and the punishment was that next day, 5 a.m., whole team is running up the hill from the base of the Hawk up to, I think, Jayhawk Boulevard at the top of the hill. And that was rough. all things considered, that the angle of that hill, like 30-degree incline, whatever it is, and then add in, the fact that it was like the night after Shark Night, that was definitely tough.
For anybody watching this podcast should know how daunting that hill is. Like, it's hard to drive it in a car, much less run it. Well, I can't imagine running it the night after one of the best nights on campus.
And probably like 3 hours of sleep. Like, if you're getting in trouble at night on Shark Night, it's probably like 12 o'clock. So word got back fast. You're probably not getting back to the crib until like 1:30, 1:40, 2 a.m., whatever it is. So yeah, right. You're on 2 hours of sleep. Yeah, not feeling the best, and then just knowing, being like, I've had some days like.
Please, Lord, forgive me.
That wasn't fun.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the memories. As much as you said you may or may not have been involved in that. Those are the memories that you think back on, and it's like those are the stories. Like, you will talk about obviously your Texas win and like the Texas Tech one every once in a while, but like that'll be probably one of the stories that you guys bring up the most at every one of your reunions. We haven't seen one of your boys in a long time. It's like that story will just live on forever.
Oh, dude, it's funny. I've been at a few weddings this summer and been, a number of them with some former teammates. And dude, I'd say like 75% of the stories we tell were like off the field things that were just like hilarious, like whether it was in the locker room or, out or something. But no, we definitely got a number of good memories that are, outside of just the game.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Carter. It means a ton to Chris and I having you on here. I know KU fans wanted to hear from you, and it means a lot for you to be here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on, and we'll definitely have to catch up here soon. Are you guys, Mitch? You're overseas right now, right?
Yeah, I'm currently in Belgium right now, playing basketball, chasing the dream.
Dude, I saw that the other day. That was huge.
Yeah, man, it's very interesting. It feels a lot like high school again in terms of like the freedom you get to play with. It's not quite like I don't know how to say this. They're probably gonna edit this out anyway, but like I don't know how to say it. Like, because my coach, no, Chris, my coach watches this podcast.
He does.
Oh.
So like I can't say anything bad because
don't say anything bad. But it's just different. It's like material.
It's like there's more freedom with it. Like, it's not Coach Self, whereas in like if I do one thing off cue, then I'm gonna warm the damn bench for the next 10 minutes. But like, nah, it's so much fun. We love it. Like the environment wise, like it's just so much more like laid back over here. Like everything's like super chill. Like we walk everywhere, and like we're right in between Brussels and Antwerp, so like right in the middle of everything. Beer's really good. Food's really good. It's sick.
Yeah.
Chris is actually going to come visit.
Any KU games?
I'm going tomorrow. So I went to the Illinois game, but I'm going to the game tomorrow. I got some good tickets. They're fun again. I mean, they're so much fun. Like you go do the tailgates in Lawrence all day. Like the tailgates are all popping, and it's not like it used to be before where like no one went into the game. Like you get the tailgates. Then everybody starts flooding in the stadium. Everyone's in their seats at kickoff. Kickoffs, they're playing like they're like it's back. Kansas football, it has been back, but like I remember from 2008, 2009 where we were Orange Bowl team, like just Lawrence shut down that day, and it's back to that. And I'm like a little kid over there. I'm screaming, jumping up in the stands, like hugging the person next to me. Like it's been a blast to go to them.
That's awesome.
Have you guys seen like all the outrage about like people are outraged about the students leaving early to go to the bars?
They're students. You can't expect them not to.
No, you're good.
Boys, if I my phone's gonna die here probably any second, so if I just cut out.
No, you're all good.
Yeah, you're all good. All right, hey, Carter, appreciate you coming on, dog. It was a great time. Let's cheer the Jayhawks on to a win this weekend, next weekend, and the whole rest of the year. Let's go to the college football playoff. Let's turn it around after this. Jason Bean and God.
No, good seeing you guys. Appreciate you having me on, and man, definitely looking forward to the game this weekend.
Hell yeah, Carter. Good to hear from you, buddy.